My name is Katie Dunn. I am a recovering commercial real estate banker. I financed hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate, commercial real estate, over my 25-year career. And I was always investing in stocks, a little bit in real estate. And I produced a movie at one point, and then I got into startups, and then I fell in love. So my first investment was an Irish spirit, or is an Irish spirits company, which I'm still intimately involved with. It is my largest investment, and I'm on the board of that company. Absolutely love that product and that founder. And then since that time, I've made 19 other investments. My angel investment is to invest in underrepresented founders in consumer packaged goods and tech. And I also have a company now. I left the banking world 2 years ago, and I have a company called Power to Pitch with my partner, Kat Weaver, where we help early stage founders with their fundraising strategy and make warm intros to investors to help them grow and grant opportunities and partners and all that good stuff.
That's awesome. Like, tell me a little bit about, Power to Pitch. I'm 25 years in pitching as well. And I can tell you that, like, I do it off the cuff. I don't really, it's very much like the way I run this podcast. I have some guidelines and some outlines for it. Walk me through. You don't have to name anybody's names, but like, tell me some of the transformational situations. Cause I found that when I do sit down and help people in their pitch, it doesn't take much tweaking. It's a lot of internal like obstacles that they've had. So walk me through that. I mean, that's an awesome, we'll start there. That's awesome. Cause that's something that's really important. It's the most important thing that you can do is pitch your product correctly.
Exactly. Well, it sounds like you're a very natural storyteller, and that's just something that's been ingrained in you. And I think there are people that are like that are able to just tell their story in a succinct manner. They understand what to say to really hook people and get their emotional connection in. And there's other people that really struggle with it. They might be nervous to brag about themselves or think it's bragging about themselves, and they don't want to come across as doing that. Or they want to just word vomit, which is my partner Kat's favorite term, and just tell everybody everything and get it all out there instead of being succinct and trying to have it more conversational. They just want to talk. So we've seen massive transformations, massive, in how people talk about their story. I've had people, I do a lot of consulting calls too, and listen to people tell their story. And my philosophy is I want people to word dump, tell me everything, talk for 5 minutes if you have to, get everything out you think you need to do. And then I try and repeat it back to them using one sentence. That's my whole thing. And it is a talent. It's a skill. It's a learned skill. And I think it's really important to be able to have somebody help you with that if you are not a natural storyteller, because the best way to tell a story is to have people engaged and to keep people wanting more and having the next question or the next meeting if you're raising money as a founder from investors, or be able to repeat the story back if you're selling a product. And so that's the key, is really just being succinct and having somebody be able to repeat it.
I actually, and I'm not doing this as a name drop. It's just a big deal. It's like, I just finished an episode with Seth Goldman from Honest Tea and Just Tea and plant-based and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he said, it's interesting you brought that up, and he has this 1-minute video that he uses, and that's what he uses everything. Even if he has 10 minutes to pitch, he puts that video on to open up the meeting. And I think I found that as a very unique thing I hadn't heard yet before. I mean, I know a lot of people have intro meetings and stuff like that, but it's very intentionally under 60 seconds. And that's what he tells people is, like, if you can you all need to have a 60-second video in your back pocket at the beginning of your PowerPoints to set the groundwork of the mission before you talk about your products. And I was like, that blew my mind in the conversation. So I'm viscerally in a real moment processing that, and the fact that you just said it validated even further.
Yeah, we start our whole process. The first thing that founders that we work with do is create a 60-second pitch.
There you go.
The first thing. And it's the hardest. We always tell them it's the hardest. It takes the longest. We are looking at every single word. We're editing it in Grammarly to look at the speaking time. And it is not approved if it's over 1 second. It has to be 60 seconds. There's so many things in life that you can submit or work on or whatever. People have an attention span for a 1-minute pitch. There's one thing I will disagree with. I don't like to play videos in meetings like that. I would rather him send that before, but he knows what he's doing, I'm sure. But we coach our
I agree with you. I've done both.
Yeah.
You got to feel the crowd as far as what you're going to do there. Yeah.
Yeah. Be able to, if he could say it and come across as not being too boring and rehearsed, but yeah.
No, that's exactly it. And I'm it's funny that when he said that about the video thing, and I agree with you too, that there's a time and place. When I was in college, I got into video in high school. I started high school around 99, 2000. And then, so we had computer labs. We had the big, Apple, computers and all that jazz. The Macintoshes, I guess they weren't called Apple at that time. Mm-hmm. And the Tandies and all that. But I was always one that, like, when they would give essays in English class, I would ask them if I could do a documentary. They were always like, what? I probably in high school and college produced 25 5-minute documentaries that were supposed to be essays because I hated essays. And when he said about the video and then what you're saying, I'm definitely I'm going to be processing this afternoon some notes of some different ideas from that. So on your story, though, I Katie, like, kind of your background is with public and private sectors. Like, how I'm going to tell, I guess I'm going to package this in a very grit and grind way. Like, you probably, while everybody looks at, oh, she's an angel investor, that's so awesome, you don't do it the same way everybody else does. And you also you do it in a very hands-on way. And I wanted you to talk about your style of investing, and not versus like somebody's is bad. I don't want that to be what anybody takes away. I want to talk about your unique style and how you angel invest, and what that means as far as why your connections, and let's say your relationships, are just a little bit more than the paycheck, or not paycheck, the investment. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's super important to me. So like I said, my background is in commercial real estate, and what you have to do in the jobs that I had is there's always tenants in those buildings. So it might be a retail building, so you're looking at the stores that are there, or it might be an office building, so you're looking at the buildings or the companies that are occupying those spaces. If it's an industrial building, you're looking at, the manufacturing company or the warehouse or whatever. And the whole thing that you have to look at is, do they have a solid business model and financials to pay their rent? Because them paying the rent means I get paid back for my mortgage. So due diligence to me is inherent. I can look at financial statements. I can look at a business model. I can, I look at that stuff and I know instantly if it's good or not. And that took a lot of practice and a lot of education, a lot of time, and not everybody has that. So for me, the financial side of it is very simple, and I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm looking at. And that's the thing probably that most angels fear the most, is if they don't have that experience and aren't that comfortable with money, they don't know what to look at, how to understand and process the cash flows and versus the income statement versus the balance sheet and all that. That all being said, a lot of what I do is a gut thing. A lot of it comes from the gut, and do I think I can help this founder? And it's not always, I don't have to be a customer. I am a customer of many of the companies I've invested in, but I'm not a customer of a lot of the companies I've invested in. It's, do I see a market for this? Do I see that this founder is the right person to bring this thing forward, this idea forward? Do they have the passion? Do they have the grit? Do they have the resilience? Are they transparent? Are they open to talking about things? And there are companies that I don't have a direct line into because I may have invested through a syndicate or through somebody else. So I don't have a direct line to the founder. But those companies that I do, and those are mostly the CPG companies, I am very interactive with and talk to them all the time. I have a meeting later today with one of my founders. I went to a VC meeting or VC event with one of my founders last week. I want to be as helpful as possible as a person, and even more so than just my check. And if that's a connection to another investor, or a connection to a lawyer, or a connection to a supplier, or a customer, or whatever it might be, I want to be, or even just like someone to listen to and them to feel safe to be like, oh my God, I had a really tough day. This was really hard. Can you just listen to me for 5 minutes? I want to be that person for them.
Like, that's what you just said there is the most important thing for anything, I think. And I'm learning this in my, I speak as if I'm like 80 years old, but I'm just approaching 40. But in the food and beverage world, 20 years is about 100 years equivalent, especially when you're in the alcohol space. So when I look back at things like that, and I look at people like you and the way you just presented that, that is the way sustainable businesses are built. And it's more than just, because one thing is, like, you might be able to write somebody $100,000 check tomorrow. That's great. But if you can sit there for 15 minutes and pivot and help them and be a sounding board to them, it's probably worth $1 million. And I think that the fact that you were more than just the paycheck, or I keep saying paycheck and I'm sorry, but you're more than just the check is so important for investors. And I've dealt with a lot of them, and many of them with myself, as well as my own friends that are those, as well as myself. I've been one. So I invested in a pretzel company and a few other things in my time. And what I want to bring across is your story and how you got into it prior to that. And so walk me through prior to your hits in the commercial real estate world. Talk to me about Katie at that time. What age are you? And then what is your life? What's going through your life? And then I'll fast forward you later.
Yeah. So, my dad was very adamant from a young age that both my sister and I learn about the value of a dollar, have jobs, invest in the stock market. And, he taught us all of that stuff. I was a finance major in college. So from an early age, I was very familiar, easy to talk about money and comfortable talking about money. Not everybody is. And you don't have to be talking about it in dollar amounts and be gross about it. It's just talking about the concept of money and making more money. And so really the spark came for me. I remember when Uber went public, and there was all the stories about these early stage investors that invested $5,000 and made 20 million or whatever. I think it was 5 million. So, or maybe 2.5 million.
It was wild.
It was a big jump. And I remember going out with friends that night and saying, how does one get into those deals? Like, I want to figure that out. How does somebody get into that? That is just so cool. I want to figure that out. But I didn't do anything about it for a long time. I didn't know how to do it. It didn't seem accessible. I just had no idea how to work my way into the room where those kind of deals happen. And then one day I was sitting at work and I had made some outside investments. I had produced this movie. So at the bank, you have to get special permission to do outside investments. So my buddy walked into my office and said, I want to make an outside investment. Can you tell me what I need to do? And I said, I'll tell you, but you have to tell me what you're investing in. And it happened to be his brother-in-law in Ireland was developing a gin brand called Blood Monkey Gin. And I was like, I'm in. I want to figure this out. I want to come into this. So it was really him knowing the guy, and then me getting to know the guy, Jason Kidd, who's now not only a great founder, he's a great friend. And, I just can't say enough good things about him. It's really, that was sort of the impetus. I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. I see. And then he asked me to be on the board, and that's really taught me the alcohol business. So I can relate very much to your plight and struggles, Nate. It's not for the faint of heart at all. And I sometimes I wonder, would I have done this if I'd known all the things? But I love it so much. The people are amazing, and the just all the new products. I literally got a text from somebody just before this call. That's a very senior person at I won't mention names, but a very important and big VC in the alcohol space, saying, do you know this brand? Like, and I love just like that kind of sharing of information and helping and supporting the new up and comers, the people with all the good ideas. It's really, really fun.
That's that's a breath of fresh air to hear that from you and somebody in the finance world and especially in the capital world. Because as we know, capital is one of those things that it's the most important thing for the food and beverage space, but it is also the most detrimental thing to the food and beverage space. So I really think that, what you're doing is important. And I feel like there's also there's a responsibility on investors. And I know I'm going to piss off some, and hopefully not you when I say this, but there's a responsibility on some when you invest in these young startups with these young 20-some-year-old kids, and you just hand them a check and you just hope the world's going to, I mean, there's a little responsibility on yourself to be like, should I guide a little or advise a little before? And then you get mad later when you lost your money. It's like, I mean, we saw that a lot. I mean, we've seen that a lot over the years where these people come out of the gate hot, and they come out of high school hot, but they have no life experience and no business experience, and it's not their fault. The idea was phenomenal, but there was not an infrastructure to drive the idea all the way to the goal. And I think that I talk a little bit about that. Like, what is it? What to you? And actually, before I do that, I want to give you some street cred here. I'm going to read a list of some of the businesses that you've invested in, because I want people to know that you're just not talking. You actually go through it all. So walk me through, name like, I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'll say here. So I'm going to go through Vin Social, The North, a female founder collective, Outcast Brands Ireland, Power to Pitch. And then you go in here, go all the way up here, and I'm going to go back in a little bit further. You got Another Tomorrow, Sniff and Lick, Halo, Juliet, Web3 Pro. I mean, like, I love the fact that you're not just like, hey, it has to be in a can in order for me to invest in it, and that's the rigidness that I invest. Like the robotic thing that people do. You've diversified your portfolio in a way that is really impressive. And
thank you.
I think in a world, and I don't need to tell you this, so please do not think that I'm trying to give you validation. I'm not. I know you're a strong person that doesn't need the validation. What I'm trying to tell you is I am inspired by you, and I'm inspired by the diversity, because diversity in a portfolio is something that, while everybody talks about it in a textbook, they don't actually really do it. And they don't really do they don't do it the hard way or the complicated way, let's say, which is actually the opportunity way, is to diversify in multiple industries. And that's where people get really scared. So talk a little bit about what that's like. Like, you wake up in the morning, and I mean, like you said, at 10 a.m. could be, something about Wegmans with a canned cocktail, and then 3 p.m. is a data analytics conversation. And walk me through your brain and how you prep for days like that, where you could be like hanging up and changing hats every hour kind of thing on industries and that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, diversity is this. I should say this is not investment advice. Just preface that. But diversity is super important to me in a portfolio. I mean, I also own real estate. I also own stocks. I also have some debt products. Like, it's very important to diversify. That's what's going to get you the best returns. The other thing that's really important to me is, because I don't have a fund, I don't have an analyst and a big team behind me, I'm not a shark, that I don't invest in businesses that will directly compete with each other, because I don't think it's fair to the founders to think that I'm sharing their secrets back and forth. Plus, I don't like to pick a favorite. So, if I'm drinking a cocktail, it's going to be Blood Monkey Gin or Two Shores Rum in it. And if I'm drinking wine, it's going to be Juliet wine, so I'm supporting my founders in that way as well. And if I am, it's just, and that's a hard thing, because there's so many good beverage companies out there, and everybody, there's a lot of people that are saying, can you help me? Do you, will you invest in me? And it's just not fair. So then, to answer your question about the kind of jumping around, that gives me energy. The not knowing that every day is not the same, that, if I had to go sit at a job where I just pressed enter all day long, I would go crazy. So it's really exciting for me to look at my calendar for the next, at the night before for the next day, and say, oh, I'm talking to this person. I do a lot of Zooming, as you can imagine. So every day I make sure to look at what's on the docket and know who I'm going to talk to and what I'm going to talk about a little bit. And so I was really excited last night when I looked, and I was like, oh, I get to talk to Nate tomorrow. So it's just something new and different that is fun. And with the real estate too, that I was always in that role, I was always working on 4 or 5, maybe even 6 or 7 deals at one time. And so it gave me and every day was different there. And every challenge was new. Every deal was totally different, even though you learn the concepts and then you apply them throughout. But I really liked that aspect, and making the switch in my career, I wanted to keep that ethos throughout, so that I'm always fresh, I'm always doing something. And it's really important for me to learn new things, really important. So that I can always take away something new.
It's I like that, and I like the way you said about the non-competition, but also the complementariness of it. And I think that I did a lot of portfolio building for other businesses, and then when I came down to building my own portfolio, I pretty much did the same thing. I walked into a liquor store and I said, all right, here's all the categories in my mind of what I see, and it's like, all right, what's the best in this category? What's the best in this category? And that's who I call. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. Was I always train my sales reps as something that I don't say anymore, but I said it then, and some of them will laugh because they do listen, and they're all at different breweries around the country right now. And what I used to always tell them was, always had something to sell. And I always used to say that, and it resonated with them. I'm like, I don't care like what you have, because if you walk in and today's not the day they're buying beer, you better have something else to sell them, because you wasted your day. And what they always be like, what do you mean we only sell beer? It's like, no, think that through. Now think about it for a little bit more. And then when they thought about it a little bit more, I was like, oh, so it's a story, it's a whatever, it's engage, sell them something, whether it's yourself, whether it's just don't walk in the door, get rejected, and then walk out the door with your tail between your legs. Like from every pitch, and I'll say that from every pitch. I mean, this is what you do, so I'm not telling you anything different. I'm speaking to the audience right now. I mean, I've been in situations where, like you said about flying off the cuff. I'll give you a funny 90-second story on that. I was in New Belgium Brewing Company out in Colorado. I was presenting on behalf of the state of Pennsylvania along with the other wholesalers, and we had a 3-day section. One day was Miller, one day was Coors, and then one day was Anheuser-Busch, and then one day was Independence. And I was presenting for the Miller Coors presentation on the Blue Network, Blue Silver, on behalf of the entire state of Pennsylvania. I'm not even 30 years old yet, and I'm doing this, and I'm freaking out. And I'm at the hotel across the street from the brewery. All these distributor owners are there. So there's dozens of owners, millionaires, all this stuff. And the one that made the presentation with me, he had all the presentations. They got in a private jet that morning. They didn't come early like I did or anything like that. They wanted to come in and show themselves. So, and I mean that in the best way. And I love them, and they know that I love them. But what happened was the plane had an issue. And they had all the PowerPoints in the box. So it's 6 a.m. I'm in Fort Collins, and I get a phone call, and it's hey Nate, the battery's dead on the plane. We're going to be 3 hours late, and so we need you to start without us. And I'm just like 20. I think I'm 29 years old, 28 years old at the time, or something like that. And I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
And at that time I drank. So I drank like a fish, and I was hungover. And because they took us out the night before, because we got in early, so we went and we tore up Fort Collins pretty hard that night. And so 6 a.m. I'm wiping my eyes and get in the rental car, drive over to Staples, and I'm standing there, and I just sat in the curb until 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. when they opened, or whatever it was, and printed out 52 things. What I'm trying to say is, what I'm getting at is, there's times where you want to give up, and there's times where it doesn't make sense, and there's times where it's other people's fault. And at 28 and 29 years old, I'm going to sound cocky when I say this. A lot of people would have said, oh, well, that's your fault. You're the adult. You're 45 years old. Like, what are we going to do? Like, blah, blah, blah. I hung up the phone. I drove to Staples. I sat in the curb, and I was there the minute they opened. And I sat down with the guy at Staples, because he freaked out, because he just got up. He was probably hungover. And he got into work, and he's like, I'm supposed to make 52 bound copies of a 48-page presentation in the next 30 minutes. And I said, yep, and I'm coming with you. And I walked around at Staples, walked behind the counter, and we shot those through the printer. I learned I never did it before, but I learned how to do that binding with that paper and the plastic. And anyway, I say that in the sense that I want everybody to understand that the pitch, what you're doing to help people with their pitch, is the most important investment aside from a lot of other things. Like, you can pitch anything without anything, but that's the key, is you have to have that pitch. So give me like a case study, like walk me through how you would help somebody. Like, let's do a little case study right now. Like you, I just walked in the door, my business. You don't know anything about my business other than it's called the Freemind Group, and it does sales and marketing in food and beverage.
Mm-hmm. So I would ask about who your customer is, how you serve them, and how they pay you.
Yeah, so my customers are manufacturers, distributors, and retailers. I do cover all three tiers. I work with them. The target customer is those who do appreciate the human interaction and the genuine conversation. I don't like to work with robots. I've worked with robots my entire life. My big thing this year is, and I have a thing on my LinkedIn, we live in the age of, it's not why do I want to buy that? It's why do I want to buy from you? And I tell people, it's like, today's the greatest time to be alive in business because you just don't have to be an asshole anymore. And it's like, you can sell anything and be anything as long as you're not an asshole. You're good to go.
Okay, so how do you make money?
I make money a couple different ways. I used to make money a lot on commission basis. I'm very good at sales. Where I've transitioned in 2024, which is new for me, is I actually don't like sales. So I am very good at sales, but where I want to go is telling stories. And I'm going in hard on this podcast as well as a lot of other aspects of storytelling. And I'm literally, when I hang up this, I'll have 150 phone calls later today of local businesses around me that I'm presenting the podcast to and telling them, hey, this is a national podcast, but we can create local campaigns for your story. And that's exactly what I do all day, every day for the past couple of weeks. And it's that's the new mission and the new venture, but it's the same venture. So to answer your other question, how about I make money? It's evolved. The business has evolved from commission. I also make retainer. I've done a little bit in the affiliate world, but not a ton as far as redirections and stuff like that. I also do ad campaigns. When I do ad campaigns on my platform, that is very good because my platform's been the same platform since I found Facebook. Like literally, my Facebook page was I was at Drexel, and it was when you had to have a college email to be on Facebook. So I've been on Facebook since 2003 or 2004. I had one of the first Facebook groups. It was called Nate's Bar Promotions. And it was because I got tired of texting everybody because you had to hit the text button 3 times to hit a letter. And I would text 700 people, like when I had a Heineken promotion downtown in Philly or if I had a Guinness promotion over here. And then the Facebook came about and I said, oh, I can just send one message to 700 people that way. And so that grew really quickly to like 15,000 people in Philadelphia back in 2004, 2005. And it was just me just telling people where I had dollar pint nights and all that other stuff. And they came and hung out with me for 4 hours until we closed the bar. And so that was my beginning days of making money. And now it's more strategic. To answer your question, as far as 2024, I'm kind of still figuring that part out. I'll be really transparent with you. I'm going to be really honest and open with you. I'm battling the sponsorship realm of a podcast. And it's like, I want to monetize this because I believe I can make a big difference in a lot of people's lives and telling people stories like yourself and giving people a platform to share it. But I want to keep the freedom of those people's stories. And I know when you accept sponsorship, sometimes you lose that freedom. And when you accept anybody's money, sometimes it is. So that's my transparency of how I accept money is an evolving concept. And it's actually currently a struggle. So as I sit right now, I'm struggling on trying to figure out how to monetize this in a principled way that maintains the integrity of what I'm trying to build.
So is your other business still up and running or are you, where does the other business sit besides the storytelling? Because those are two separate things.
They're two separate things, but they are actually the same LLC. So it's called Freemind LLC. It was intentionally the most generic thing in the world. And I founded it in 2008. And I founded it as a marketing agency because somebody told me that you start as a marketing agency and it could be whatever you want it to be. So I never created products under this entity. It's always been a service-based business in the marketing world. So it's been, making me money every year since 2008. And this is just a variation off of that. Like I said, it's called Freemind. I was a big fan of back in the 90s, Free Your Mind. Yeah, there you go. And then a little Flowbots after that, so there was an existential, crunchy hippie part to it, but there also, when I started it, was because I was working at Origlio Beverage and I was doing a lot of odd jobs for the owner, Dominic Origlio, and I realized that he was giving me these things that he was delegating things that to him would have been like an hour of his day, but it meant more for me to go do it than him to spend the time doing it. And once that concept went into my brain of delegation and time and a value, that I'm 19, 18 years old and I'm driving $100-some thousand Mercedes to a car wash, or I'm flying to Palm Beach to winterize somebody's home and drive their Mercedes back up, or whatever I was doing for him. I say that as things as not a complaint. It was like, because he valued what I was doing. He knew I could do it for him well, but also it was bringing value to him because it was time that he could spend doing bigger things. And the way that was presented to me, I respected so much, because he wasn't just like, hey, this is back when Entourage was around. So I got called Turtle a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, like that's what I was. I was the runner, and I did the dry cleaning. I went to do the, stock in the wine fridge and do all that stuff. Where that lesson though is what stayed with me, is what I'm trying to get at. That's the lesson that stayed with me, that time is valuable, and time is valuable differently to different people.
Mm-hmm. So do you have a team then that's keeping the other business going?
Oh, there is no other business. This is the podcast.
No, but the podcasting versus the sales.
Oh, yeah. The consulting. Okay. So yeah, I just 2 weeks ago took my best friend who, when I was going through a divorce and all kinds of stuff years ago, he was just there for me. He's always been there. We lived together, went to college together, played rugby together. He just retired from Vanguard recently to be an artist for the rest of his life. He's very systematic, analytical, very much, very composed in that sense, but he also is very unique and weird because he has that creative side. So he has both lenses. And we shook hands last week, or 2 weeks ago in person. And so he's been helping me a lot with that. So I would say, I've been partnered with a lot of people over various entities. I've been a part of other businesses outside of this and always invested as this in different things. But a majority of my time was spent by myself in a room by myself.
Well, you should look at Coconut VA. I'll give a shout out for my friend George. He's a co-founder there. Look at VAs. If you have repeatable tasks that you can train somebody to do, you record the video or put together a process document on it, that it's a great way to leverage your time. But I would say so it sounds to me like you've got some stuff that's running on its own. It's been going for a long time. You've built up a good following, but right now you're struggling on how to monetize what you really love to do.
100%. I literally just quit a daytime corporate job 2 weeks ago because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. So like my entrepreneurial spirit has been 20 years of seasons. I tell people I've not been 20 years as an entrepreneur. I've been 20 years as side hustle and entrepreneur. It's been so many different periods over 20 years. And right now I'm in a determined period to do what I know is right and what I'm passionate about, because I've always done everything for everybody else. Mm-hmm. And whether it was my business, it was always for other people. I never owned a lot of things. I owned logos and different things like that, but I never owned assets. Mm-hmm. I never owned any assets at all. So I see looking back 20 years from now, that my business has always just been so tied to me that if I die tomorrow, the business dies. And that is a realization, I think, as I'm approaching 40, that struck me and forced me to want to quit that job. Not because I hate those people or anything like that. You go on my LinkedIn and you'll see that it was a great company and everybody should work there. But for me, I can't live another day building someone else's dream. I've done it for 25 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. I've been there too. Yeah, it's definitely tough. I mean, but you have to jump and the net will appear.
That's exactly it.
You've just done that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was the most invigorating feeling in the world. I wasn't rude about it. I just said, this isn't for me. Like, it's just, I gotta go. And I told him why. I said, I got something burning. I just can't, like, I've given up a lot in my years, and I've given up millions of dollars by being short-sighted, by being immature, different times by being a drunk, just missed opportunities that were in front of me. And I am just, the fire in me is never again. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's not only that, I'm not doing this in a selfish way. I want to reiterate that too. I've been doing since January, since I switched to video for this podcast. I do these interviews and then I'm with the people on email. I'm with them on the phone. Like I'm helping grow them, because while I say I don't want to build somebody else's thing, what I mean by that is I didn't attach myself enough to share the success of it in the beginning. whether it's that intellectual property or even just the way that I did the operating agreements, I would give everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't build myself any sort of sustainable foundation to grow with it. It was always just giving. And I want to find a balance in my life and my operations moving forward where I can pull from a business and not give everything. I'm the king of giving away millions of dollars of free advice in 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm the king.
Yeah. So I hear you on that. I do that too. And I mean, it's hard to balance because you want, like, I'm a big believer in abundance for all. I share everything I know on social media, especially LinkedIn. I post about real experiences, true things that happen, true stories, everything I know. It's not going to preclude people from wanting to work with me or talk with me. It definitely invites people that want free advice. And if I don't know them or don't have a connection or don't have a reason, like I have a paid link to speak with me. Like I said, I mean, I Zoom all day long. I had 6 Zooms yesterday, and then I was up until 3 a.m. working on what I have to really work on. So my day is very demanding and busy. And if I know my worth, I know that what I'm going to tell somebody, the advice I'm going to give them is going to change and transform their business. So I should get paid for that. I've worked for a long time. I've educated myself. I've gone to grad school. I've done programs at Yale. I've taken other classes and, I've invested in myself. So it's time to get a return for that. And if people say to me, well, I can't afford that, or I thought can you just spend 15 minutes? I say, I'm sorry, I can't. I have to serve my paying clients first. That is the most important thing. And anything else, is for me. I want to walk my dog. I want to spend time with my friends. I need alone time to recharge. I know myself in that way. So it's really, I think it's fair to say, yeah, I do. I have a paid link. Please book time. You can do it on Calendly super easily. Set up a Stripe link there and have people pick your brain, the worst term in the planet, for a half an hour. And
what, Katie, I'm going to do that this afternoon because I have on my Calendly link, my thing is called the Freemind one-on-one, and it's a 30-minute thing.
Yeah.
And I've never promoted it the way that I should promote it. I just thought it was a funny name to call a meeting like this or anything like that. So I'm not blowing smoke. I'm going to do that this afternoon. I'm going to do a little video. I'm going to tell people and just start to add another service to it. Because you're right. Maybe I can avoid the sponsorship realm by self-sustaining it that way. And maybe it's maybe it's a community supported program, and that makes it even more powerful. I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But I do think you should look at sponsorship too.
I think they need to, because it's a powerful platform that people can use for lead generation and connections and networking. So I do agree there's a balance there.
Are you putting these up on YouTube? Have you?
Yeah, so I just started this year, and I've been doing this for 2 years audibly, and then this year I just started with the YouTube version. And John and I are looking at. We talked to a couple bars here locally about doing location sponsorships. So basically, instead of doing it at the house, I would go do it at the bar, and that's where we would have the session. So it'd be like set up a TV on Zoom or whatever, and you guys could be on Zoom and we interview. Or if they're in the area, they can come in person. You know what I mean? Like I'm 90 minutes from Philadelphia, and an hour from Baltimore. People like that. So when that comes about, that's where I want to start. That's my plan down the road, is to start increasing the quality of the content. So the content is phenomenal. The conversations are phenomenal. Where I need to take it is to the next level of the quality distribution and visualization of the content. Because a lot of people go past this episode and go past my podcast, and they might not, because it's not as flashy as some of the other things. And I think that finding that balance is going to be crucial to get this message out to people. It's where, like, when I do paid, if I do a paid after this, I can get 150,000 views on an episode for not much money at all. And really, that's the crazy thing about when you build a platform, like you're saying, when you're not starting from scratch and you're actually activating a network that's established, the power in that, I don't know. It's a lot bigger than a lot of ad agencies can do, because it's 20 years of the same. It's not a new profile every time. Like, the amount of data that's buried in this platform is just ridiculous.
Hmm. Well, and YouTube will pay you,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I've gotten from my other stuff. I had other entities. I've been. Oh yeah, I've been paid. I've been paid. This is not. That's the thing, is learning how to be monetized is not my struggle. It's the I give up so much when I just to get a job funded. I want to find a way to balance that out and find the right people. That I guess, let me back up. There's times I think where I just didn't get in with the right people.
Hmm.
And I think that's a number one thing is I think that I need to give everybody a fair shake and not use my history and my experiences to slow me down from making that ask or making that connection. So I appreciate this. This is not where I expected this to go, Katie, but I really appreciate that. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you talking through
No,
that.
I think it's important to, I mean, I'm older than you, but you've had experience, you've met a lot of people. It's not a bad thing to call on the people that you already have relationships with. They already know you the best. They already know where you've been and how far you've gone. And I get a lot of people reaching out to me saying, can I work with you on this? Or will you help me with that? Or will you introduce me to your network so I can work with them on whatever? I'm never going to do that with a cold person. I'm just not. I've got a network of these people that I have carefully curated and vetted and worked with and know and trust. So it's really, and that's sort of the where I'm at. I love meeting new people. I love learning what people do. I love seeing all the new things going on. But at the end of the day, if I'm putting my reputation on the line and working, like, I'm going to work with people that I know and trust. I can't risk my reputation as an angel investor, as a startup advisor, as a board director. All of those things hinges on my network. And if I can't trust the person or the people, that ruins me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that I use this term all the time: credibility and visibility. That's what you have to establish in every situation, as a new brand coming up and coming, as a person, if you want to be a brand or yourself and have people want to work with you, they have to know where to find you, and you have to have credibility in what you're saying, and that transparency, trust, relationship, so important.
It is, and I think that what you're saying too about the feedback is, one thing that skills that I've always had, and you very much seem like the same type of person, being able to give that unbiased feedback in a professional setting, and with people like you and me who are in multiple industries. Like, I'm not just now. I talk about alcohol a lot because it's funny, but I also am in the cannabis space. I had a lot of success. I mean, unfortunately, COVID happened, but I had to pivot. And I ended up working with a distillery, making sanitizers, selling masks. I ended up funding the state of Delaware, Pennsylvania, Montana with all their tests and stuff like it. I've constantly had to do different things. So when you ask the question about the evolution, it's all over the place. And I really respect and admire people like yourself who are diversified to a point where most people would see it as a complication.
No, I think it's an asset. Like, there's certain things I've gone really deep on, like alcohol and spirits, but there's other things like I know a little bit about and can be a little bit dangerous and can ask you some pointed questions that are going to help you be better. And that I think is important. Just having the knowledge and the experience I've had, something as wild as touring an Amazon distribution center, which was such a cool experience. And seeing, there's these warehouses that are in caves in Kansas City, and the businesses that want to be there, like the U.S. Passport Agency or a printing company.
Have you been there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. I've always wanted to go there.
Oh my God, they're so cool.
I'm obsessed with warehouses. I'm a big
So am I. And that was my favorite thing. It's because you'd see these wild businesses that they're just printing cash, and sometimes they're really complicated, but a lot of times they're really simple. And just seeing all the inner workings of the logistics and all that stuff, I love it. But that kind of thing, those experience. I mean, who would have thought back in the day when I was, starting out my career and doing that all of those things have led me to here and have made me the person I am, to be able to help people faster, make things more simple for them, hopefully not make as many mistakes, not waste money, not waste people's time, all of those kinds of things. That's my goal. to help people with that.
No, and that's actually, yeah, it's one of those things too. Like, I joke around, like I drank professionally for 25 years and I quit about a year and a half ago. And it's just one of those things where for me, it was because I had to.
Yeah. But good for you. And that's a tough thing. I know how hard that is. So
it is. And it's one of those things where when it's part of your life and you're part of a brand, like my face was a mascot on various things, literally on delivery trucks for the wholesaler. My face was on the back of it as a cartoon. And when when it's at your local campaign outside your house, and then you go out and everybody, when it's like at 7 a.m., you're doing samples, you go to lunch, everybody that sees you out, oh, the beer race, and they're buying you a beer. And I'm social, so I'm not saying no. And 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10, and then all of a sudden 4 p.m. And this is right before Uber started. So that was a whole different ballgame. So I'll say that. And what I will say too is that when I quit drinking, I did not want to leave the industry. So I still have a minority stake in a brewery out in Chicago called Around the Bend, and I still deal with alcohol. There's a bottle of rum sitting on my desk right now that I use for a prop sometimes. It's one of those things where I took a different stance from sobriety. I made it very much individual to me. I cast no judgment on anybody that drinks. I support people that drink. I want people to drink, but all I say to people is, if you ever have that moment where you pause for a second and you're wondering if it's too much, just follow through on that. And whether it's through moderation or complete elimination, that's your decision. But I can tell a lot of sloppy stories is what I'm going to say. We're growing up and having early success in senior management in your 20s for a beer wholesaler and traveling around the world, or traveling around the country for breweries and internationally. You get a little carried away.
Yeah, I mean, look,
you went right into it. You went right into a group of Irish boys.
Yeah, I worked on Wall Street for many years. There's the reason why it's work hard, play hard. So it's, I get it. I've definitely gone the moderation route, later in life, which is working out fine for me. But yeah, it's having a clear head is important, right?
I don't dance as well in the bars though. That's the only downside. I mean, my feet are not as good as they used to be without the alcohol. That's the only downside so far.
That's just practice. You can take some lessons. You just got to get yourself out there.
That's exactly it. Katie, I have one more question for you. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I will keep it under the time frame that I asked for, but I will tell you that in conversation, I will close on exactly on the time, but I want to tell you that I don't want this to be our last conversation. Other conversations won't be on camera, but I want to let you know that there's certain times where I have to express this to people directly. I don't want to lose touch with this just at the end of this episode. I really enjoy your personality. I enjoy your story, and I enjoy your persistence and your vision and perception, just the way you look at the lens. And so I really appreciate that. And kind of, I'll close with one question for you. Actually, two questions. I'm going to do one as, where kind of somebody's sitting there with this idea. I tell people a lot, the idea is in their head. Okay. It's been sitting there for 4 years or 5 years. They work a full-time job. They have 3 kids. Where do you start? You're an investor and they don't, they could come to you and take money. And does that mean anything? And then we go back. Exactly.
Don't do that.
Exactly. So go tell me right now, like, I'm man or woman, gender does not matter. You're in this. Let's just take it even more general. You're in a situation where you have responsibilities, but you have a dream that's burning in your brain. Where do you help somebody go with that?
Yeah. You do not do it as cheaply as possible using your own time and resources. And don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. That is a saying for a reason. Talk to people. Here's what I tell people. When you're out there talking to people, whether it's through, doing a Google form, which is free for a survey, having your friends fill it out, ask very direct questions, but talk to people about your idea. And when you're talking to them, say, how much would you pay for this? If they're saying, if it's some sort of solution out there and they're saying, I'd probably use it. It sounds kind of cool. Yeah, maybe I paid $5 for that a month, something like that. Don't do it. That is not the answer you want. What you want is, oh my gosh, I need this so bad. I would use this every single day. I need this. I would pay anything for this. That's when you know you're onto a good idea. But talk about it. If it's in your brain and nowhere else, it doesn't live. So you've got to give it light, air, and fertilizer, just like a plant, and make it grow. So get it out in the world and try and put something out there, and just, even if you can build and make it better as you go along, but I guarantee you're going to pivot. I guarantee you're going to have changes. So just build the simplest thing that you can to get it out there and see how it goes.
That's all. I love that. I love that. It's taking things that people want to overcomplicate and building the building blocks and the foundational first steps. I like to tell people too, like, I'm not claiming to be anything. I just got off the couch earlier than you, and I'm strong enough to hold my hand out and bring you with me. That's pretty much how I tell people, because that's what it is. I think that I want to thank you. I want to thank you for what it is that you do. You are a complete representation of what sustainable investments mean. There's a lot of people that invest for the pride and ego of owning things and powering things and overpowering and not empowering. And I think that the reason I reached out to you was exactly that. I have a Rolodex of investors and VCs and all these guys, but I don't want all of them on there, because I don't want to perpetuate what they do. I like them as people, but I don't want to give them a platform to do certain things. So I want to compliment you. I want to tell you, like, just keep doing what you're doing. And I want to thank you, because you're the reason that people get a foot up. There's a reason. You're the reason that people get their foot in the door once they get that idea going. You're that next tier that helps them carry forward. And it is the most crucial piece, because that's when they need the help. That's when we need the help to go from the one plateau to the next. And I just want to thank you for being that for the industry and all the industries you touch.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been super fun, and I hope we talk again too.
Oh, we will. Don't worry. I'll give you last couple minutes here. Just go through all the platforms of how people can reach you and support the brands that you have empowered.
Oh, sure. Thank you for that. So I post on LinkedIn every day. You can find me, Katie Dunn, there. And that's where if you DM me there, I will respond. It may take me a few days, but I promise I will respond and try and help in some way. All of my investments and information on me is at katiedunn.com. So you can see companies I've invested in and companies I've advised through Power to Pitch that are fundraising, if you're interested in angel investing as well, which is super fun. I highly recommend writing checks. One of the big myths out there is that you have to have a ton of money to do it. You can put $6,500 of your IRA can go into angel investments, and you can write checks as small as $500. So don't be afraid.
If you're open to it, would you like to do an episode maybe with somebody else too, in addition, like a roundtable about that type of thing? Because I think what you just said there at the end is something I really want more people to know. Is you don't have, just because you don't need $1 million to link up with an investor. And I think
I have the perfect guest if you're open to a guest.
100%.
There's a new startup called Let's Play Money. Nice. And the platform's called Play Money. It's all about getting founders that need investment matched with angel investors that can write small checks to them. It's phenomenal. I love the platform so much. I'm super excited about it.
Awesome. So, all right. That's booked. Everybody sees it. It's public. We put ourselves out there. We are living what we're speaking to you.
Yes.
So the next episode, you guys will see Katie. We are doing a roundtable on venture funding and investing and what it means as a small business owner. I'm so excited. Thank you, Katie.
That's great.
All right. You have a great rest of your day, Katie. You take care.
You too. Take care. Thanks, Nate.
See ya.
Bye.
If you have a story to share or you know someone with an inspiring journey, the Freemind podcast wants to hear from you. Submit your story or nominate somebody to be our next guest. Check out our website, thefreemindpodcast.com, and be a part of the conversation that truly matters.